Hello, learners. I'm Katie.
I'm Vinny, and this is Learn Real Good.
Oh, man, I'm excited to learn.
I like it. It's good.
I know that sounds sarcastic, but, I am ready for it.
I love learning new things. That's
right?
That's why I got into science in the first place.
I know, but, I'd say you, of anyone I've ever met, you like to learn. If you're left to your own devices, if work wasn't an issue, you would be on the internet just filling your brain with new information. That's your jam.
Oh yeah. If I could take one thing with me on a desert island, it would be Wikipedia.
Yes.
Yeah. I like a little like a e-ink, like a Kindle with Wikipedia. I'd be fine. I wouldn't eat. I'd read it.
You would
I'd die.
Slowly
I'd be
starve
happy,
to
yeah.
death.
I wouldn't
Slightly
notice.
more brilliant.
I'd just be reading this Wikipedia forever.
You wouldn't suffer.
No, it'd be
You'd
great.
be fine.
That's kind of my dream.
Now, before Wikipedia, because that's new-ish, right? Yeah. What did you go to
just
encyclopedias?
Read encyclopedias, yeah.
Did you literally?
As a kid, I had a set of kid encyclopedias.
Oh my gosh. What were some of your favorite? Did you have, because I'm asking the question, I had favorite.
So did you also read encyclopedias?
Yeah. So my mother had inherited from her mother just a bunch of encyclopedias, they were lettered, and they would have all the information from that letter that existed. How did encyclopedias work?
Well, there's someone who decides what goes in.
Someone decided what was important. And I had my favorite ones. So did you have a favorite letter or?
Not particularly.
Okay.
But I also didn't have
a full build-up.
I didn't have a full encyclopedia. I had
Okay.
It was several letters that my parents found at a garage sale or something. So I had M, V, and Z or something.
Interesting. I wonder if there were more popular letters.
I want to know who bought the rest of them didn't need those. Yeah. It's those letters aren't useful.
I remember my favorites, and I don't know if these were really encyclopedias. They're sort of medical encyclopedias.
Oh.
I don't know what they were. They were in this vein.
You're reading medical encyclopedias as a kid?
I was ready to be a surgeon from a very young age. And they were these medical ones that had cellophane pages that slowly built the human body. So it'd be bone and then muscles and then skin, and you can just remove them to see different layers.
Neat.
Yeah, I was obsessed with that. That was so neat.
Well, yeah. Did you have a favorite entry? Was that it?
That one, and I've shared this with you before, but our listeners don't know. I was obsessed with this insect sort of compendium of different insect species, and this particular page that had bees on it. I would always go back to and visit old friends.
Was it a really striking picture of a bee?
It was a bunch. It had several species of bees and wasps on a page, but I would always return to it.
Did you have a favorite bee?
Yeah, I had a favorite individual
image of a bee.
Yes.
Did
I was a lonely kid.
Hey, books are friends. That's what I say.
Books are friends, and we're friends. And we come every episode of Learn Real Good, right? Our listeners are going to be used to our format. We shoot the breeze, then we each share a fact.
A fun science fact.
And then we get to our guest, which I'm very excited about this week. Yeah, we have an amazing guest. Now, fact time. Who goes first? Do we alternate?
I think it's your turn.
My turn to go first. Okay. So before I get to this discovery, I feel like this is really going to be basically me sharing an anecdote, and that's all I've got.
That's great.
So I'm going to build it up a bit.
Fun science anecdote. That's the section.
I like to do a lot of build up for a little
payoff. Yeah. That's your MO.
That's my style of comedy.
Perfect for a podcast.
Yes. So first I want to ask you, Vinny, what do you know about corals? What are
corals?
They? Yeah.
Oh, they're living organisms that are under the sea, suffer coral bleaching due to the acidification of oceans, and they host ecosystems. People try to create artificial coral reefs.
This is
by
unbelievable.
Dumping old subway cars.
There's literally nothing in the area of physics you could share with me that I would have that level of understanding.
Okay.
So great. So my follow-up question is, do you know what type of organism a coral is?
Like a necklace? Like a coral necklace? Is that an organism? No?
No.
I hit the limit of my understanding.
So you don't know if it's a plant or a fungus. What would you guess a coral are?
Interesting. An animal.
Yeah, they are animals.
Yes, I remember reading that. Okay.
So coral, they're squishy animals that make this hard.
Wait, they're squishy?
The animal itself,
okay.
the thing that you see when you think of coral is actually the calcium carbonate it spits out
Oh, it's like its house?
Its bones on the outside. Exactly, yeah,
Okay.
to protect it. And the reason why coral reefs have their color is because of another organism. So many corals, not all, there's always exceptions, but many corals are incapable of gathering food for themselves. So to gain nourishment, they have a relationship with algae that live inside them. And that's what gives corals these bright color, are these algae that live inside them, which photosynthesize and make food to feed the coral. And the coral is a home for the algae. So they have this, what we call a symbiotic relationship. They help each other out.
Now, I would already be happy with this as the science fact. I'm like, well, this is great, but I have a feeling there's more.
Now, thank you. You're like my sidekick on building this story. Now, what is coral bleaching? Do you know?
It's when I guess they lose their algae buddies.
Exactly, right. So they lose their color because who's sensitive here is the algae, but that kills the coral too because they no longer have their food making bud.
Right.
So that's the nature of coral bleaching. Now here, that's all known.
Right.
Known stuff.
Everyone knew that.
Everyone knows that.
So common knowledge from kindergarten.
This comes from the New Scientist just this week. It's my go-to for pop sci stuff to share on this podcast. A study recently showed that corals can actually swap out algal species in response to climate change. So climate change is the dominant cause of coral bleaching.
Yes.
And it's because the algae are little they're weenie.
Are you dissing these algae?
Well, they're really sensitive to temperature changes. So
it's okay to be sensitive, Katie.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm negging the algae. But they can swap out for more heat-tolerant algae, therefore reducing the chance of coral bleaching. And they're just hanging around,
just ready to go?
I mean, that's a good point. That's about the extent to which I read this article. Okay. Yeah, I guess. Maybe that's not even known because this is sort of a new discovery.
Are there like cold algae that hang out just in case the temperatures go down? It's like, you know what? We got this algae. It's pretty good, but if we need the other ones.
I'd be shocked if people were studying unused algae that are kicking around.
I'd be shocked if they weren't. That's science.
Anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, because it's such a huge issue for the reasons you mentioned, right? Coral reefs are homes to so many organisms, and they're threatened by more than just coral bleaching, but that is a big issue right now. You can watch the latest Blue Planet has these very depressing videos of what it looks like in several coral reefs nowadays.
So these algae that are dying are just getting replaced? So climate change, no big deal.
No, okay. Wow.
No?
Hot take, Vinny. No.
All right.
No.
Still a big deal. All right,
I mean, we don't even know if this is going to slow global
right. But it's
coral
fascinating
bleaching.
that this mechanism exists.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how did the coral know to switch?
Yeah.
Is it just that they're dying and they just pick something that's alive? Or are they somehow able to choose the algae? I don't know.
All right.
It's interesting.
Wow.
Stay tuned.
I guess it's my turn
Vinny's
for a science fact. Are you ready?
Yes.
So there's a little bit of science news that happened recently. What do you know about the human brain? Let me start mine with a little question for you.
Whoa. I always assume you're going to come at me with some planet facts.
No,
but there's
I'm
no
mixing
rules
it up.
here.
No, just science.
Oof. What do I know about the human brain? I mean, honestly, if you asked me when I was 5, I would have had more information for you because I used to read books on the brain.
Specifically encyclopedias.
No,
I didn't have the B volume. So
everyone bought me books on the brain because I used to say I wanted to be a neurosurgeon.
Okay.
So I'd read all these things. I mean, I know the different sectors and their names and what they roughly do,
right.
but I mean, not a ton more than that.
Right. I mean,
gray matter, white matter.
That's already plenty.
Okay.
So recently, scientists have implanted electrodes on someone who had a spinal cord injury and lost the use of their limbs, all 4 limbs, quadriplegic. And they put electrodes and asked them to imagine themselves writing out words.
Oh my gosh.
The electrodes were connected to a computer, and the computer was able to learn which signals refer to which letters. And so as the test subject, this person, was imagining writing out letters of the alphabet, the computer was eventually able to figure out what letters they meant and put them on a screen.
That is wild.
And so they got him up to, I believe it was 90 characters per minute. with an accuracy of 94%.
Holy.
And then just using your off-the-shelf autocorrect, like in, whatever word editing software you use, it was 99%. Like he just made little typos, or the software did.
That is amazing.
And so this human brain interfacing with a computer has gotten to the point where you just imagine some letters. And he didn't just imagine letters. They had him imagine the mechanical motion of writing with his hand.
Fascinating.
And so that was enough to get the computer to be like, okay, that's what that letter means.
That is really cool. Now, do you think that if he accidentally left his electrode on and the computer on, and he was just like sort of daydreaming, would start like typing things, or he really has to think consciously? Like he couldn't accidentally announce some embarrassing internal thoughts.
No, yeah.
That's my immediate concern.
Yeah, you'd be worried, right? That's like, oh no, they can hear what I'm thinking.
My internal monologue is bananas.
We all, who knows what's going on in there? Who knows what's going on?
I don't want to see it written out.
No. Can you imagine getting a transcript at the end of the day of what's going on in there? No, that would be
horrifying.
Yeah, for everyone involved.
Yeah, right? Okay, so so you had to really think.
And it's not just the letters, it's the mechanical motion of physically, because he is someone who did have the use of their limbs and then lost it in spinal cord injury.
So does that imply that this wouldn't work on someone who's never been able to write?
It sounds like it. I mean, I don't have the full facts, but that was the technique that they used. But I mean, it's a matter of time.
Brains are wild.
They're
really crazy.
Yeah.
Good job, Brains.
Should we talk to our guest now?
Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
I would love to meet this
And
person.
you, Vinny, you have the pleasure of introducing our guest.
Yeah. Today's guest is Saiful Hoque. He's currently a PhD student in textile and apparel science at the University of Alberta. Saiful's current research focuses on protective clothing against heat and flame. In addition, Saiful loves to connect with people, explore different cultures, and exchange experiences. Let's welcome Saiful Hoque to the show. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me here.
This is a delight. Now, this is fascinating. This is one of those departments that I didn't even know existed. Textile and apparel science.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to maybe start, Saiful, by being a spokesperson for your discipline before we get into what you do specifically?
What is apparel science?
Yep. So the department is basically the Department of Human Ecology at University of Alberta, and the Textile and Apparel Science is a program under this department. And come back to Venus' question, the apparel science is including everything we do with the clothing, and there are lots of science behind this, the apparel. You cannot believe. It seems so simple, but it is combination of a lot of science.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of material science, I'm sure, chemistry, physics, all of these things. It sounds incredible.
So what's your background before you got into textiles? Did you previously do engineering, or are there bachelors in textiles? What was your education before this?
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I completed my undergraduate in textile engineering. So it deals with how the textiles how we got the production of the textiles, everything with the machineries involved with the production of the textile, and everything with the production of the garments. So there are several stages in the production of the textile. So I completed, if I say a little bit about the background, I completed the undergraduate in textile engineering. And after that, I got the opportunity to work in the textile industries. And after working there for a while, I steered the wheel of my career and shifted to the academia. And while I was working with the academic personnel, I feel the thrust to learn more about the textiles and advance research of the material, and step into the graduate program at University of Alberta to learn more about the textile science.
That's amazing.
It's one of those things where I never really thought much about it.
I mean, there are artificial fabrics, right? Like rayon and nylon, and someone had to come up with it, I guess.
Yeah, there are lots of,
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Are they like celebrities to you, Saiful? Like, do you know who came up with nylon? You're like, you have a picture of them on your wall.
Yeah, not like that, but there are lots of like artificial things, which is combination with the natural fibers. For example, the things we wear, mostly we feel comfortable with the natural fibers like cottons, but these are not easily available, and they don't have all of the desirable properties you want in a textiles or apparel. Then we mix that fiber with other artificial fiber, for example, as you said, nylon. There are also other fibers, which is called as high performance fibers, and provide a better quality with low weight. And it's basically used in the protective clothing, the high performance fiber, which is also artificial.
Amazing. There's so much. Like, I guess I wear clothes every day, but I don't really think about it.
That was my point. Yeah. Someone made this. So let's talk a bit about your research then, Saiful. So you're looking at clothes that protect against heat and flame. Are you looking at like developing a new material, or what's your research specifically looking at?
Yeah, so in a broad sense, I'm working with in the area of protective clothing. And if I do it is specific, I'm usually working with the protective clothing of the firefighters. As you see, the firefighters wear a bulky suits, as you can see in the road while firefighters are working. So these clothes are quite expensive, and it gives an excellent protection with heat and flame and other chemical resistance as well. But my research is to find out when that fabric lost its functional performance. So in terms of textile, we say that the textile could have two types of performance. One is aesthetic performance, like the conventional textile you always look for, is it fashionable or not? But in case of protective textile, we mostly look for the functional performance. Is it giving us the protection? How much time it is giving us the protection? So basically with my research, I'm looking at when the fabrics is losing its functional performance. So I'm trying to find out the predictive things to find out when it lost its functional performance.
Yeah, I guess if you have to worry about how it's going to perform, and over time, if you're a firefighter, it's like a pretty key part of what your safety equipment, your clothing.
I have an idea, Saiful, and this is all yours. You run with this. You're the expert.
This is going to be good. I like this setup.
But I don't know if you ever saw these like hypercolor sweatshirts from the 80s.
Yes.
They were a thing where if you touched it for a long time, the color would change. It was sort of like overall tie-dye looking, but like the hot spots would change color temporarily, which was horrible for teenagers. I don't know why they flocked to them, because they just had like
armpit stains,
pinks, very obvious sweaty pits all the time. But I think that would be helpful for a firefighter, right? If you had the color change in response to...
Are you saying that the firefighter does not know where the fire is unless they look at their clothing?
Although, side benefit. But no, to know like they're getting too close to the fire, or to have that color change be associated with wear and tear.
Oh, like a degradation.
Yeah.
Well, I know in radiation exposure, they have like you wear tags and they changes color the more radiation you get exposed to.
Someone saw Chernobyl.
I did with you.
Yeah. In terms of in this area, so when the firefighters usually work, they become exposed to several types of environment, not only the heat. For example, they also get exposed to water. They use water to extinguish the fire. They also get exposed to abrasion. Sometimes for rescuing the people, they have to crawl. So they also have to expose in UV, like when they work, they're the weathering, the sunlight. The sunlight is also a crucial thing which affect the fabric's performance. So there are lots of things which we are taking into consideration to find out a model or something which can predict the loss of performance. And the challenging thing is that usually, as per the standard, it's said that the useful lifetime of a cloth is 10 years. But so far, there is no threshold value, so that they can say that after this time of exposure, this fabric will lost its performance. So far, there's no prediction value for that. And so we are really trying to find out that, like after how many exposure, what type of temperature, what type of UV, or what type of fire incident this fabric can lost its performance. So we are really saying that we are exploring the aging of the fire protective fabric.
So basically your research is sending firefighters into fires more and more often until finally they're like, my clothes fell off. Is that the research you're doing? That's what I imagine.
So we are basically collecting the fabrics which usually used in production of the firefighters protective clothing, and we are exposing to this fabric to several aging conditions. we are basically trying to simulate that aging condition in the laboratory. And after that, we are trying to find out how we can predict. Yeah.
That's great.
That's crazy. Like, you never, like, I didn't think about all those other factors, right? You just think like fire, it has to be fireproof, right? You don't think, but yeah, they're being doused in water. It's my intelligent person voice. They're being doused in water. UV is always an issue. Yeah.
Because it has to be durable too, of course.
So, Saiful, obviously you're biased towards this fabric category, but can you think of another textile in like the human clothing arena, which has even more sort of factors affecting its design? Like, is the firefighter outfit really like the upper limit of most complicated clothing fabrics? Or can you think of other examples of really complex things?
One of the thing is, like in any of the clothing, is the physiological comfort. So in terms of, if we say protective clothing, or for the conventional clothing as well, the physiological comfort is another thing which we need to consider, because the strain for the fabrics, if it's not comfortable, whatever the fabric is, protective clothing or conventional clothing, you must suffer. So that's the another thing, apart from the research area I'm doing right now.
I would imagine astronaut suits also have like cosmic rays to deal with. I wonder what those are made out of.
Interesting.
Probably not cotton.
Yeah, no. So as I said at the beginning, when Katie was mentioning about the nylon, I said there are some fibers which is called high performance fiber. So basically that type of fiber usually used in most of the protective clothing, including the astronaut suits as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the high performance fiber is quite interesting. It resists until the 500 degrees centigrade temperature.
Wow.
It is so less weight. It's like comparable with in terms of weight, comparable with the cotton, but in terms of strength, it comparable with the steel. So it's quite interesting.
Fabrics are complicated. I had no idea.
I know. I've got so many questions.
Well, why don't you start with that? This is a great venue for them.
Is it? So what would you say, is there like a number one goal when it comes to like a firefighter outfit? Like, this is our number one priority for improvement? Is it durability? Is it flame retarding? Is it comfort? Like, what would you say, like, where we are now with technology? What's the number one goal to push it to the next level?
So in a broad view, the number one priority is to protect the wearer, the protection. So they have to get the protection from the flame or adversity, and to provide the protection from the flame, they also have to have comfort to work in the flame, the thermophysiological comfort, as I mentioned, because there are lots of injury because of heat strain, because they're wearing a cloth and sometimes the heat is generating inside of the body and it cannot release. So that's another key issues with the protective clothing and with the protective clothing of the firefighters.
Imagine the weight too. They look heavy.
Yep.
Yeah, the full gear looks real heavy.
Yeah. The protective clothing looks heavy. There's no question about that. But and researchers are also working in that area to make it as much comfortable as they can. So it's like quite challenging area because you cannot compromise your protection. Also, you have to maintain the comfortability. So it's like you have to find the best optimal situation, optimal condition to manufacture the fabric.
Is there a reason why they always seem oversized? Do you need like a cushion of air between like the skin and the outer part of the suit?
Baggy?
Yeah. They always look like a little kid in their dad's clothes.
Yeah, so it's basically not the air. The cloth is a combination of 3 layers.
Oh,
so
3.
The things you are seeing from the outside, that's called the outer shell. And my research is with the outer shell only, but the cloth also contains other 2 layers inside, which is moisture barrier and the thermal barrier. And 3 layer has different function to protect the firefighters. The outer shell mostly protect from the heat and flame, and the moisture barrier protects it from the moisture. It protects the wearer from any kind of chemical which can interact with the body. And the thermal barrier also provide it's like quite bulky but not heavy. And it provides protection from the thermal as well. So it's a combination of 3 layers. That's why it seems a little bit bulky. Yep.
Now here's a question. If the moisture barrier is the second layer, I guess one of the concerns would be the outer layer absorbing too much water, and then because water carries so much heat, it could get really hot. I would imagine that's a concern. So the outer layer has to be water resistant as well.
It's quite hydrophobic. The outer layer is quite hydrophobic, but it's not completely hydrophobic because you need to consider to release your sweat as well. The perspiration is gathering inside of the body. It's also need to get rid of that things. So that's in that area the moisture barrier really works. So it's like a semi-permeable membrane. It will resist inserting the water into the body, but the moisture barrier will allow to get rid of the perspiration. Yeah,
that's amazing.
So complicated.
This is too complicated. This is why you have a material scientist.
Yeah, we're not going to go into firefighter outfit.
So I have to abandon my firefighter outfit?
Yes.
I bought so much wool.
I don't think wool's a great fabric for this.
I took up knitting.
Yeah.
That's not going to work?
No, and you got cashmere too. I just think you really wasted your money there.
I want them to wear the best. That's all.
Now, I know fashion isn't a concern here. We're talking safety, right?
Safety first.
Is there a reason why, and I can't remember if the color of the firefighter outfit is the same everywhere. This might not be true for you in Alberta, but in Quebec, the firefighters, it's like a beige suit.
Yellowy beige?
Not yellow, though. It's like a very muted neutral color. Not something bright you might think of.
You don't want to scare a fire as you approach it. So it has to be, I don't know. Yeah.
Is there?
So I can interrupt a little bit.
Yeah.
So there are two types of firefighters, basically. If you see, one firefighters is wildland firefighters. They work to extinguish the wildland fire. And there are also structural firefighters who work for extinguishing the fire which happen inside the building or any construction. So their fabric is different. In terms of wildland firefighters, they wear one type of cloth. And in terms of structural firefighters, their clothing is different. But in terms of the color, it really doesn't matter too much because some cloth is dyed with separate color. But in terms of construction, it also varies with what types of work they're doing.
I guess that makes sense, right? If you're outside in a forest, you're going to be experiencing different environmental conditions.
Now, how did you get in? How did you end up following this field? Did you look at your clothes one day and say, you know what? I need to learn more.
I got to get to the bottom of this.
I got to get to the bottom of this.
So it's quite interesting how I came here. So when I started my career into the academia, I felt the thrust to learn more about the advanced research. And I don't know why when I was searching and reading the article, I got interested in the area of protective clothing. So I was searching in different universities and the professors. And I found my current supervisor, Dr. Patricia Dole, is doing excellent work in the area of protective clothing. I read some of her articles and contacted her. And we had a conversation. I applied at the University of Alberta. And I was lucky enough to get into here. And so far, I'm loving my work. So that's important.
Isn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no one wants to do work they hate.
Hot take.
It's a controversial opinion, but I'll say that.
I think I shared this with you, Saiful, that I'm also a University of Alberta alum.
Alum, yeah, there's no N.
I was going to go alumni.
Alumnus.
They might take my degree back.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't in English or Latin, so you're okay.
How do you like the University of Alberta?
What's he gonna say?
It's amazing. Though for the COVID-19, we are missing the campus, campus.
Right.
But I joined in fall 2019, so I got the campus flavor initially. So it's amazing. So everything like the faculty members and the sports facility, I'm quite a sports freak person. So if the sports facility is quite good, the other facility, if you talk about the gymnasium, if you talk about the faculty, if we talk about different facilities for the research, like the instrument, they are quite rich. So I'm happy to be here.
I loved it there.
You liked it there?
I loved Edmonton, yeah.
Well, what about the food? How's the food?
Oh my God.
The food?
So regarding the food, I didn't try too much outside, again, for the COVID things.
Of course.
But I explored some cultures here. I have some friends from here, so I really liked how things carry on here. the culture here. And yep, in terms of the food, I tried the fast food in some of the restaurants, and it seems quite the food which was unique to me, like I used for the first time, is the poutine.
Oh yes, as Montrealer,
that's our national dish over here.
Dish,
yeah.
And what was your opinion?
Oh, it was good. It was a good experience because previously I didn't. Oh no! Previously I didn't imagine like French fries with some dipping with sauce, something like that, right? So it was good.
Can't go wrong with fries.
Can't go wrong with fries. Cheese, gravy. It's all the greatest thing. It looks like it shouldn't be good. And
yeah, I mean, I've had bad poutines.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it can be good.
I mean, where's the culinary science on what's going on in there? Because
there's 3 layers there too. You got your fries.
Yeah, one's a moisture, one's for abrasion, one's for heat protection.
Yeah, the cheese curds protect you from the abrasion.
Yeah, the gravy seals in the moisture of the French fries, which has all the heat. It works.
Oh wow!
So firefighters should just wear a poutine. I think
we solved it.
That's
a freebie for you, Saiful. There's your PhD.
Saiful, were you like a little scientist kid? Were you always like a curious person?
To be true, not really.
Sure. Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, to be true, not really. But I used to love reading, like love learning new things, but not like doing like scientist things, like doing experiment, not like that. But I used to love reading. I used to love learning. So I didn't feel bored by learning when I was kid. So
yeah,
I think that's the common theme.
Yeah,
of today's show, like
loving learning,
loving to learn. It's really good.
So when was do you remember a turn, Saiful, where that changed? Because obviously you did a degree in science. Maybe that you weren't interested in it then, but presumably you were. What was the point? Was there a person who sort of catalyzed your interest, or something else?
So in terms of doing the engineering in textiles, basically, so it's basically stemmed from the area where I brought up. So I'm from Bangladesh, and it's basically known as good for producing textile goods, and that basically the area I brought up is surrounded by textile industries. So when I was like in 9th grade or 10th grade, I used to go with some textile industries with my fathers for some business purpose. Then I got surprised how big machineries and things are involved with this simple textile we are wiring. So that time I thought, maybe I want to learn more about that sector, and eventually got into the undergraduate program of textile engineering. So I think the visit in some textile industries during my early ages, like 9th, 10th grades, I got interested in that area. So I really got surprised, like several big machineries and a lot of processes like involved in. I always used to say that simple textile. Right now I also say like the conventional textile we cannot imagine the things behind this, but there are lots of things, and it's kicked my mind that I can learn more about that thing.
Yeah, it's fascinating how just any fabric gets made.
How does anyone do it?
Yeah.
You're amazed when I knit.
Yeah, I watch you knit, and it's like watching. It's I guess it's like a little machine making fabric out of like a thread.
But with lots of errors and lots of holes.
But it's still fascinating. Like, I guess, I don't give that much thought to the clothes that I wear. Or
you will now.
Well, I mean, I have. Like, I'm growing, like, oh, yeah, someone is making this. These threads are being put together. It's coming from all over the world. How we consume clothing is fascinating. There's a whole field of, like, fast fashion about how people wear clothes and then throw them away, or they break... Clothes aren't made to last long; they're made to be cheap, and so they become more disposable. And it's all a whole science of like how clothing is consumed and the life cycle of clothing. It's fascinating.
Clothing makes up a very sizable amount of what goes into our
landfills.
Yeah, it's it landfills.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
No, that's true. The clothing is also like, for example, if we talk about the conventional textile, and basically the fast fashion, it's bringing a lot of pollution in the world. So when I came here in 2019, I got an opportunity to talk in a session where the session was about the fast fashion. I was as a panel speaker. I shared my experience from back home as a textile engineer and professional. So that time, I also learned from other person who are in the panel. So it's really causing a lot of pollution in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned earlier COVID-19. How can we avoid that topic? How has that affected? Because I imagine a lot of your work is like in the lab, experimenting with different textiles. Are you able to do that at this time, or have you had to do things virtually somehow?
Yeah. So initially, when we got the lockdown for the COVID-19, we couldn't work in the lab. And at that time, we usually worked with the literature review and doing some analysis of the data which we had already had. But after 2 months of the lockdown, we got the access of the lab, like by maintaining all of the procedures by government of Alberta, like social distancing. And now things are moving forward. It's quite slow. It's taking time, but at least things are moving.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that kind of crossed my mind when the lockdown happened is, oh my gosh, to be a grad student right now.
With an experiment running that you need to maintain every day
like,
and you can't go in to see it.
And like those people, grant money that's ticking away and you can't really do too much. That's must be incredibly stressful. You're making it work, Saiful. We're proud of you.
Yeah.
So what does the future for Saiful look like? Like, I know you never want to ask a PhD student like when you're going to finish, but do you have sort of plans for what you would like to do in an idealized situation after your PhD?
Yeah, of course. The plan I have, I want to build my career in the academia after completing the PhD. So if I say about the step-by-step plan, I want to do a postdoc to learn more about the research and explore other things. And after that, I have a strong desire to continue my research in the academia and in textile teaching. I love to, previously I was involved in the teaching before coming here, and I enjoyed that time. And I think that's the thing I should do after completing the degree here, because I love that thing.
Nice.
That's great. You don't often hear people who like to teach. It's shocking. And some people just want to do the research. And then the people who end up teaching are people who sometimes grudgingly do the teaching. And you can tell they'd rather be doing their research, and this teaching is an obstacle to their quote unquote real work. And so sometimes the students kind of get the short end of the stick, but it's great. I mean, you need good teachers who are excited and engaged to keep the class motivated and engaged too.
It makes my heart sing when I hear someone who wants to be an academic who also is excited to teach. Yes. Because that's in short-ish supply. It's not the dominant feeling, I don't think, and the students can feel that. I remember earlier in my academic career, I was very poorly advised to not TA, to not be a teacher's assistant if I could avoid it, and to just get grants and funding to do research, because that's all people care about in academia. And I listened to that, and I didn't TA until my PhD, and then I fell in love with it so hard and just wanted to do teaching, but just made me think like, what if I had never had that experience? I was told to avoid it for so long. You never know what you're going to like.
Sometimes it really feels good when you teach a student or teach a person, and that person is so excited to learn that thing and reach out to you. Yeah, I know I have learned these things and I want to know more about that thing. It's like rewarding.
Yeah, for a curious person, there's nothing more thrilling than being really nerdy and knowledgeable about something, and getting to share that is like candy.
I mean, being able to share your passion about whatever field that you're in excites people, and that's what engages people. And so if you are like genuinely into learning, being able to communicate that excitement and that passion, it's not a natural thing for everybody. And I get that teaching isn't going to be everyone. Some people are much better researchers than teachers. Some people are much better teachers than researchers. But it's an important part, especially in an academic environment where it's not just the research, it's about the teaching. The institution is there to pass on that knowledge.
We're all on board with you. You sound like you're trying to convince us.
So, well, do I get my funding?
We
or
agree. Oh, I have a question. Saiful, do you have any favorite textiles in the history of textiles? Is there one, like, either the person behind it, the story behind it that fascinates you, or you think it's like that was a really good one. I wish that was mine.
Not really. I'm not an historical person. Like I didn't really learn about the history of the textile. I was more in materials of the textiles. So to be true, not really.
That's okay.
That's okay.
I don't either.
Yeah, not everyone needs to have a top 3 textiles list.
I always want to do a top 3 list.
Yeah. Okay, Katie, what's your top 3 textiles?
I don't know anything about cashmere.
One for sure. I thought that was a given.
I love me a cashmere. Micro suede. What is that called? Ultra suede.
There's a difference?
Ultra suede.
Between micro suede and ultra suede?
I don't know if micro suede's a thing. Ultra suede, the fake suede.
Oh, I see.
That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool discovery. And it saves
a bunch of animals. Yeah.
It's probably more polluting. It might be a net negative. Number 3, silk. I don't know. It comes from animals. How wild is that?
Probably biodegradable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, is that a concern when developing? I guess not. Safety must be the number one concern, but I guess like the whole, like as a consumer society, we're starting to, I guess, slowly get more awareness about the entire life cycle, about the products that we consume. I guess it's not really firefighter uniforms aren't really a consumer product, but like what happens to a firefighter's outfit after it's done? Like, can you recycle them in some way?
So there are some there are some recycle industries as well to recycle these fabrics and the fibers and extract them from and produce the new things. So yeah.
Whoa.
That's amazing. Well, I'm glad someone's thinking about it.
That is cool.
Yeah. There are some industries in the Edmonton as well who work with the recycling of the firefighters too.
Crazy. That's gonna be a whole process. You gotta take all 3 parts apart. Gotta take that reflective tape off.
That's the big obstacle. Number 1 obstacle, this tape.
So do you think, Saiful, you're going to continue in this area, or are there other textile areas you're interested in exploring, or are you like, for the next 50 years, I am in on protective clothing?
So the area of protective clothing is quite vast, I must say. So it's combination of different areas. For example, right now during the COVID, the hot topic is the mask. So it's also a protective textile.
Right,
so if we say about the protective clothing, it's lots of things to do, and there are lots of challenge to do in this research. As I said earlier, that you cannot compromise your protection, but you have to ensure the comfort as well. So as I said, I am loving this area, and I believe I'll continue loving this area, and I would have a attraction in the area of protective clothing. It's not about only the firefighters things, like other protective textiles I want to explore.
Now here's my question. What is your mask made out of? Because if there's someone I want to ask about what material to use in a mask, it's someone who works in protective textiles. So, Saiful, do you wear a homemade t-shirt that was turned into a mask? Or
you're talking about your COVID-19
COVID-19 face protection, yeah.
So for the thing I use the medical mask, but for the production of the mask, basically the non-woven textile are used. So it's not like the knitted or the woven fabrics. It's like the non-woven is made from the polymer directly, from the fiber directly by different process. One of the process could be the electric spinning. So the science behind this is like the moisture membrane used in the fire protective source. It will not allow the outside things to enter in your mouth, but it will allow your breath to go outside. And
amazing.
there are several technologies also developing by the researchers so that the mask can decontaminate the virus or other things by its own.
I mean, that sounds useful.
I mean, we've been getting by on my mother, bless her heart. She's going to be listening to this. She made, I don't know, conservatively 1,000 face masks.
That's a rough estimate, but they're lovely. They're amazing.
It's funny because she would use like cotton fabrics from my childhood. They're all the things she would quilt and the blankets she made, and it's like a trip down memory lane. And I know they're not the most effective, but you forgot a key textile that's embedded in every mask: a mother's love. What's the protective quality of a mother's love, Saiful?
It's the most protective love of all.
Yeah.
Stops fire, stops bullies.
So if you went into a fire, your mother's
and the
love,
fire bullied me. Yeah.
fine. Protect, you're fine.
So Saiful, clearly you're a busy guy, right? You're busy, but what do you do when you're not sciencing? Mm-hmm. What are some of your hobbies or things you like to do to relax?
Oh yeah. So as I said, I'm like quite a sports person. So I used to do a lot of sports when things was normal, but right now it's like quite pause. I spent my time by watching series in Netflix,
nice.
and sometimes movies. Sometimes I love to do the volunteering. So I do some volunteering in campus and off campus. So that's how I spend my time.
What sort of volunteer work do you do?
Oh, so right now I'm working with the faculty level GSA and the departmental GSA. And that's in campus. And in campus, I'm also working with international student service. And in off campus, right now, I'm working with one Institute of Textile Science symposium committee as a committee member. And I'm also involved with one charity organization which is in back home. So I try to support them with some what should I say, with some logistics, like I can help them with some technical things they need in terms of. So
well, you can give them a shout out. What are they? What's their name? What do they do?
So in terms of the organization which is in back home, so it's called Anirban. We really work for the people who don't have, like for the poor people in the remote villages of Bangladesh, and we basically distribute winter clothes during the winter. We provide like books and academic things to the children who cannot afford, and we also assist in blood collection for the people who need, for example, thalassemia patients. They need a lot of blood after 3 months, and we love to connect the needy person with the donator. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's the basically things we're usually doing.
Well, that's great.
That's so lovely.
Yeah. And do they have a website that we can send people to?
No, we don't have a website. We use the social media network.
Okay.
We'll add it to when we post the show. We'll get that from Saiful. Well, I think are we wrapping up?
Out of time.
Oh my God, that flew by.
We got to conclude. Saiful, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a fascinating journey into protective clothing and textiles. I've learned a lot.
Yeah. Thank you. And good luck finishing up your PhD and beyond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really honored to be here. And it's really, as I said, I really enjoyed the conversation with you guys. And I also learned at the beginning when Vinny was talking about the brain, it was quite amazing. Yeah.
It's incredible.
You learn here, man.
Yeah. It's an exchange. It's an exchange.
As all good learning ought to be.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. Take care, Saiful.
Yeah, take care.
I'm never going to look at a firefighter the same.
I'm seriously thinking about what this is made of and why.
What you're wearing right now is made of.
What did they make it?
Why
did they
come
make it
from?
This?
Yeah. What are the properties of
this
all the
shirt?
clothes
No,
that you're wearing right now.
The listeners, I was going to say the viewers. There are none. You can't see this. It's a t-shirt shape, but the fabric, and I'll reveal this to Vinny, is sort of like terry cloth, like a towel on the inside. Yeah. It's terrible. It's really thick and bulky. I just like the color and cut. I think it's cute. Okay. But whatever textile designer made this was not thinking of what the person wearing it. It's like a rough, angry
it's
towel
made to
on me.
Look good, not to feel.
But it didn't have to be this thick. Why? I just question why they made this terry cloth shirt.
Now we're gonna question all textiles. And we're going to do it relentlessly.
I'm just going to go to the store clerk and say, why did you make this out of this?
Yeah, what are the abrasion, resistance of this clothing?
Yeah, throw my slushy at it. It's not water resistant. Is it flame resistant?
Yeah, you can't go around burning clothes. No.
Damn.
I mean, I guess you could if you pay for it. That's
I know,
the problem.
It's burnt.
You're not going to
it's burnt.
It's burnt. Yeah, you returned it immediately without buying
covered in smoothie
you
now.
Just made money.
I don't want this. It's ruined.
So you go around ruining clothes in stores and then returning them for profit?
Yeah, that's right.
You didn't buy it.
Mm.
All right. All right.
I didn't think through the plan, okay?
No. This is learn real good, not steal real good.
No, I've never shoplifted. Are you kidding me?
Or throw a smoothie on clothing.
No, I am a nice person.
Yeah.
Well, above being nice, I'm very frightened of authority figures.
You're a very good rule
I'm a
follower.
very good girl.
You love rules.
I love a rule. I want to know the rules so I can follow them precisely and get a sticker for my rule following.
Yeah, you're a real easy motivation scheme.
Absolutely. Make a rule.
And then
a sticker. That's it. Scratch and sniff if you really have been impressed.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's our show.
That's our show.
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks again to our guest Saiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Vinny. Thank you,
Katie.
listeners, for being here. Vinny, why don't you pitch our socials?
If you're interested in following us on social media, you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at LRG Pod.
That's right, LRG Pod.
Thanks so
everywhere
much.
Where podcasts are sold.
Thanks so much for listening today.